Well, it is a very sad day. This will be the last Avenger League preview of the 2022 season and of 2022, the year. I would say it's been a fun season, but I've been getting my ass handed to me since week 5, I think it was, when everything really started to go downhill. The fun news here is that um, I'm recording while watching the Arkansas Kansas game that is 14 points from the over. Actually, it's 12 points, but football scores. 2 scores away from the over, so that's fun. Maybe that'll bring some excitement here. And honestly, the most disappointing part of having to record this final video is that I really don't have anything to talk about. The games have turned to the point where the only one that's semi-competitive at this point after 1 week is the game that's deciding nothing between Cameron and Trevor. There's a 5-point difference there. Charlie has built up a 50-point lead against Raleigh. The championship game, at least, it's just a hair over 20 points. It's a 22-point difference, so there could be some excitement here down the stretch. So I will talk about that one a little bit. The fifth place match, it's a 21-point difference, so there's still a path there for that game to get exciting. And then just the perfect end to an awful season. Ashley has jumped out to a commanding 49-point lead against me. So my path to victory is Ashley benches her entire team, and then her internet shuts off for the entire week, and she doesn't realize it until it's too late, and she can't go to like a Starbucks and set her lineup. So there's my path to victory. Raleigh, unfortunately, yours is about the same. Of the two, I think Charlie is more likely to do that. So I guess you have a little bit better of a shot than I do. So I'll talk about the other two games. Like I said, it's a 22 and a 21-point difference. So not completely out of the question that one of these teams pops off and wins. So, I'll break it down, and I'll start with the fifth place game just to start with. Technically the less important one, no shot at Wade or John. I'm not even going to break down the other three games. One's deciding nothing, could be interesting to watch down the stretch just for pride purposes. The other two are just blowout bloodbaths at this point. So, Wade, what is your path to victory here? You're starting off really hot. You have Justin Fields against the Lions. That should be a very exciting game, and the Bears have decided that they're not gonna sit Fields down for the season, let him develop a little bit. And against a Detroit defense that has looked better than they did at the beginning of the year. Last week, though, they got just absolutely demolished by the Panthers in that run game, and that's what the Bears do. Is what Justin Fields does is run the ball down your throat. So if there was a game where Fields is going to potentially get back to his 40-point streak, this would be the game that I would believe in. And then on the other side, you have Geno Smith versus the Jets. Geno has kind of turned back into the Geno we expected him to be the last couple weeks. Just not a lot of production through the air. Only one touchdown in each of the last 2 weeks. Last week had a pick against Kansas City, and the Jets are a much better team, much better defense anyway than Kansas City. Not a better team. Definitely not a better team. Better defense though. And Mike White should be back, so I think they're going to be getting up for that game. So that's honestly, if you're looking for where your points are going to be made up, it's right there. However, flipping back down to the running backs, this is where the points get relost. We have Christian McCaffrey, who does have a questionable designation, limited at practice, knee issue. Yeah, he's probably fine. Had a kind of pedestrian week last week against Washington, but they didn't really need to utilize him all that much. Not that they will against the Jared Stidham-led Raiders, but a much more porous defense that they should be able to just run the ball. I expect this to be one of those games where McCaffrey has like 19 going into the half and ends with 22 because the 49ers are up, 38-10 or 38-6 or something like that. Honestly, I don't even know how the Raiders scored 10. Oh, there was a score in this game. Hold on. All right, we're at 61. Kansas kicked a field goal. Oh, no. They scored a touchdown. Wimber 2 didn't get it. 61. God, they've gone for 2 a couple times now. It's gonna fuck me. Is that what happened? What score were we at? No, they did kick a field goal. All right, 61. Touchdown, field goal, and we're there, boys. Anyway, and then you have Travis Etienne playing against the Texans, who the Texans have kind of stood up the last couple weeks. Obviously took Kansas City to overtime, beat the Titans, limited Derrick Henry, although it was a lot easier when you have Malik Willis and just no threat of a passing game at all. And limited meaning he didn't go for 200 yards like he usually does against the Texans. But obviously Trevor Lawrence opens things up. Travis Etienne should have a pretty monster week. And on the other side, you've got Ramondre against the Dolphins, which is a really good matchup. He is questionable, and he's also made some questionable decisions the last couple weeks. Last week, he fumbled in the red zone while the Patriots were driving down to score, ended with 2.3 points. Bengals defense is pretty good. I'll give him that as far as bottling him up. But obviously against the Raiders, well, he had a monster game, 172 yards and a touchdown. He did kick off just possibly the worst play in NFL history. I mean, just abysmal, honestly. And then all kind of came back to him. And then, Jesus Christ, what's going on that you're resorting to starting Tyler Algier? What happened? I imagine Miles Sanders is going to be put in the RB2 slot, and Zay Jones is going to get the flex. Or Jeff Wilson, one of the two. I don't think he's going to start Tyler Algier. If he does, good for him. And it's against a bad Cardinals defense. I've just had some trouble trusting Falcons running backs ever since the Cordero Patterson incident on Thursday Night Football. Scarred me forever. I don't think you'll ever see a Falcon on my team in general at this point. Not as long as Arthur Smith is coach. So there you go. Just made a public declaration. I might draft Kyle Pitts. But no. Anyway, Miles Sanders against New Orleans in the flex. Just skipped ahead a lot. Miles Sanders in the flex against New Orleans is also coming along with a questionable designation. Non-participant in a walkthrough. Interesting. I mean, they're not sitting him to rest, I wouldn't think, when they just need a win. I mean, honestly, the fucking Saints. They might just sit him because they can beat him with Kenneth Gainwell and Gardner Minshew at this point. And then, since we're on flexes, I'll go to the other side of John here. We're kind of back into the Aaron Rodgers loves embarrassing the NFC North territory. And we all know the Vikings are frauds. Their defense is porous. So Christian Watson against the Vikings could actually be spicy. I don't think the yardage totals are going to be there, but we could finally see him get back to that just monster touchdown stretch he had there for a couple weeks before the bye week. That is if he's not still in Aaron Rodgers' doghouse. So we'll see that, but I do actually really like this matchup for Christian Watson. And then looking at the wide receivers here, Chris Godwin has just been a reception monster for the past couple weeks. So his floor extremely high because of that. Even last week when they were awful against the Cardinals in a terrible game, 63 yards, 10 points. He just, every time I look up, he's catching the ball. 8 receptions on 10 targets. I mean, at this point, it looks like Brady doesn't trust Mike Evans, who is kind of mentally checked out of the season, it seems, and Chris Godwin kind of becomes your other option. And then Justin Jefferson, just the ability to go for 200 yards at any point. In fact, he's 209 yards away from the single season record. Would be kind of sick if he said it this week just to avoid the whole, extra game conversation. Although I think Calvin Johnson set that record in 16 games, if I'm not mistaken. I think we had this discussion earlier in the season. Sorry, the fucking cold has lit my sinuses up. Yeah, Calvin Johnson did do that in 16 games, which is just unfucking real. But either way, I mean, Justin Jefferson, as long as he plays the last 2 weeks, probably going to get that record. But we could potentially see some extra targets, possibly going for it. Minnesota's already locked up the division, so the only thing they're playing for at this point is seeding. Sorry, Arkansas is driving the ball. Only thing they're playing for at this point is seeding. AJ Brown against New Orleans too, also with the questionable tag, limited at practice. Honestly, the Eagles might just fucking sit everybody and just let Gardner Minshew and Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott do it. So that would be really fun. AJ Brown, he did practice. He's just limited. DK Metcalf against the Jets. The stack there against the Jets, I'm really terrified of. And Wade, if you were looking for a path back into fifth place, that's it. Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. Having to play a tough Jets defense. DK probably going to go up against Sauce. Really interesting battle to watch. If I had any interest in watching that game. Oh, and it's the standalone at 4:05, so I will be watching at least some of that game until the Packers and Vikings kick off at 4:25. 3:25 Eastern, by the way. That's just what the website had them listed as. And then in prime time we got Mark Andrews, who, if Lamar is playing this week, I kind of expect Mark Andrews to get back to his elite status. Finally dropped down to the number 3 tight end. TJ Hockenson with a monster week took him over. Kind of think he might take it back this week. I don't know how many points he is behind, and I'm too lazy to look that up, even though I just looked up the Calvin Johnson record, but the points a lot harder to figure out. Arkansas's driving. Oh, yeah, it was 3rd and 17. Never mind. They're not driving down the field anymore. They're about to punt. So yeah, can 20 points be made up? Sure. Like I said, it's gonna come onto the legs of Justin Fields and him putting up one of those 35 to 40 point performances, and having the Jets just hold Geno Smith and DK Metcalf in check. If one of those two things doesn't happen, then no. Well, I mean, Justin Jefferson could go for 200 and a couple touchdowns too. Don't take that out of the equation. But that's the path. Am I predicting that to happen? No. I do think John ends up taking 5th place, which is honestly kind of monstrous after the beginning of the season that he had. So congrats, John. Great job. Didn't die. Really proud of you. Wish I could say the same for me. Like I said, not going to go into the other 3 games because they're pointless. So this is going to be a much shorter video. I tried to think of some things to do to extend it. Maybe talk about the season as a whole. But I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll see if I think of something between now and whenever I finish up talking about Andrew and Tim. So Andrew and Tim. Kind of a very similar situation. 22-point difference here. Roughly just a hair under 22. But I don't count fractions. So, and a very similar path to a comeback. Kind of resting on quarterback play. Josh Allen playing the Bengals, who obviously have a good defense, but that's prime time. That's on Monday. Josh Allen tends to shine in prime time a little bit harder, a little bit brighter. And they're going to need his legs, and they're going to need him to be Superman to beat the Bengals. And he knows that. I mean, so, we've talked about it, at length in different discussions. But Josh Allen's one of those people, him, Mahomes, Burrow, which, is who he's playing, so it should be really, really fun, who kind of just can decide on a whim that they will not lose a football game, and make it happen. So Josh Allen there, try to find 30 to 35, maybe even 40 points, to kind of kickstart this comeback. And on the other side, you're looking at Brock Purdy, who is playing a really bad Raiders defense. But he's shouldn't have to throw all that much, honestly. Kind of what I said with Christian McCaffrey. I mean, if he doesn't have, 20 to 25 points by halftime, I don't foresee him getting there. They should be able to just chew clock and run the ball in the second half, with backups, which Brock Purdy is the backup. But at some point, they can just, press the starters, not risk injury. Playoffs right around the corner. They've already got everything locked up. Just run the ball and let's go home. Because that defense is not giving up more than 10 points to Jared fucking Stidham. And then the second path here. Oh, Tim. Tim is chasing points again with Cam Akers. Cam Akers had a monster week last week. Now, Tim didn't pick up Cam Akers. He's had him for a minute. I mean, he picked him up at some point, but he's had him for a minute. Coming off last week, 118 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Broncos, who have just completely given up. Now, the Chargers are not a good run defense. They've shown that time and time again. but they're they're playing for seeding. They've already made the playoffs, but they're playing for something. Whereas the Broncos at this point are just trying to get through Week 18 and go home. They've already fired Nathaniel Hackett. There's not going to be the same open lanes and just white flags that you saw from the Broncos. Now Eckler, on the other hand, the Rams defense kind of is in that boat. Good defense to start the year. Still top 10 against the run. But their season's over. They've officially been eliminated. Baker Mayfield looks fun, but that's about it. And Eckler should be able to take advantage of that on his end. Now on the other side, Mixon and Pollard. Pollard does have a questionable tag, which normally I wouldn't be worried about on a Wednesday, but the problem is he is in the Thursday night game, playing tomorrow. So didn't practice Wednesday. Actually didn't practice today at all. Pollard looks good for the game on Thursday, according to Jerry Jones. That's Jerry Jones. Counting on him playing, so it looks like he's going to play, but with the questionable tag and with an issue there, and against the Titans team that frankly is dead, I would be a little worried about that. Now, you don't really have another option if you are Andrew. Oh, wait, yeah, you do, because you have Najee. You just put him in and then go with the flex. Not a lot of great flex options either. I mean, Sutton, Damian Harris, Jahan Dotson, Carson Wentz is playing again. Tyler Boyd maybe against Buffalo would be fun. Adam Thielen, yeah. I mean, they're all about the same as far as projections and, what I would see them doing. So, if you want the flash, if you want the ceiling, I guess keep Pollard in. With a 21-point lead or 22-point lead, I may look somewhere else. I may look for the safe points, but I'm in last place and you're playing for first. So once again, don't really listen to me. But also, we have until 7:15 tomorrow night to decide that. So plenty of time to see if they pull the injury designation or what they're doing there. The wide receivers here. Both y'all make it. Why is this the championship matchup? Joe Mixon against Buffalo. Buffalo's hasn't been a great run defense. They still kind of have that stigma of being a great run defense. They're kind of not at this point, and Joe Mixon is just a carry machine, and he can receive plenty out of the background. The wide receivers, we have Juju Smith-Schuster and Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's fine. Juju Smith-Schuster's fine. And they are playing Denver. They're playing the Denver defense that I just said gave up. So I don't know how I made it this far with these wide receivers, but I do know that the matchups look real juicy for Tim and could be another path to make up this 22-point difference. Now, actually, I'm not kind of talking myself into this game being a lot closer than maybe we initially let on. Juju Smith-Schuster against the Broncos, who have completely given up. And the Chiefs still playing for a 1 seed, and you get the luxury of they play this game before the Bills on Monday night, which I think if the Bills win, they lock in the 1 seed. Let's double check that. Not that it matters because the Chiefs still have to play. So, Bills beat the Bengals and Chiefs lose to the Broncos. So no, the Bills cannot lock up the 1 seed. With just a win. They're both going to have to play in week 18 unless the Chiefs lose and the Bills win. So, yeah, the Chiefs still have plenty to play for. Patrick Mahomes should still be nutty. That could be a whole lot of points. Somebody score? No, they didn't. And Garrett Wilson against Seattle. Seattle, much like the Lions, has kind of returned to what we thought their defense would be. And then Mike White's back. So that's the big news here. Mike White, when did Mike White get his first start? Was it this game against Chicago? I think it was. So with Mike White, Garrett Wilson had 24 points, 20 points, 10, 11, and then last week with Zach Wilson, he had 3 points. So Garrett Wilson with Mike White is fun. Garrett Wilson without Mike White is no fun, which the Jets without Mike White are no fun. On the other side for Andrew, DJ Moore against Tampa Bay, who, well, this game is the most fascinating shitty game of all time. Obviously, if the Bucks win, they win the division, they lock it in, and the Bucks will be hosting a home playoff game. If the Panthers win, the division stays open, and we look into Week 18. Let's see. Let me just pull that back up. Let's see. Carolina. Okay, this is a fucking article. I just need a list. Just need a list. Playoff status. Thank you. Okay, I don't need spreadsheets. I just need a list. New York Times, please do it for me. Don't want. I don't want the Florida Panthers. I need the Carolina Panthers. This is all staying in, by the way. It's gonna be a short video anyway, so I want to make y'all sit here and look this up with me. Okay, fine. I'll read the fucking article. Nope, this is the shitty website. Jesus fucking Christ. Somebody please just fucking answer the question for me. Okay, so they do have to win against the Saints in Week 18 too, but win to stay alive. Jesus Christ, why did it take an hour to find a simple answer? Finish before Bama tips. Anyway, so both teams playing for something. Both teams should still be playing hard. I mean, the Bucks at this point, you know, they haven't packed it in at least. I mean, obviously they're still the favorite to get to the playoffs, but you kind of see with teams that had Super Bowl expectations at the beginning of the year going to the playoffs with a losing record and probably going to get bounced in the first round. Motivation kind of takes a hit. Now, Big Game Gabe should be a lot of fun, I think. Now I kind of predicted this against Miami, for him to kind of have his resurgence, his kind of coming out party. Andrew, you've been riding through a lot of shitty weeks here, but man, but you can't give up now. It's gotten you to the championship game, so you got to ride with it. Did have a touchdown last week. You know, it's Gabriel Davis. He's either gonna have 3 70-yard touchdowns or 2 catches for 15 yards. We get it. I tend to lean to him having more of a bigger game this week, Monday night prime time against the Bengals. That's kind of when he shines. But obviously anything he does counteracted a little bit by Josh Allen, so that's the upside for Tim there. And then we get into the flex, and right now it's Najee. If Pollard news comes down, obviously Najee will get moved into the RB2 slot, and we'll try to figure out which of these mid receivers is going in. Najee against Baltimore. Baltimore with a great defense in prime time. I mean, I've said it before. It's 8 to 12 points against the Ravens. The Ravens have been playing some great defense lately. It may even be less than that, but I would imagine we kind of see the same prototypical output from Najee Harris. Dalvin Cook. You know, kind of a weaker game last week. Obviously, the week before in against Indianapolis with a big comeback. Had the monster screen run at the end that really just shot his score through the roof. Last week against the Giants, more prototypical of what we've seen. 64 yards on the ground, 13 through the air. At this point, with where the Vikings are and what they're doing, I don't even really know how to project Dalvin Cook. I do think this is going to sneakily be actually a really good game, Packers and Vikings. Aaron Rodgers is kind of figuring out a way to sneak his way back into the playoffs again. And the Vikings love playing close games. So, I do think Kirk's probably going to have to throw it a lot, and Justin Jefferson's going to have a big day. However, the Packers' run defense is not very good, and their secondary is, comparatively better. So, maybe we do see a heavy dose of Dalvin Cook kind of mixed into the game plan. But I don't know how to predict the Vikings at this point. And really, I don't predict the Vikings. So, back here to, can Tim overcome the 22-point deficit? I think he can. And I think a lot of it has to do with what Gabe Davis does. If he can make that up with Juju and Garrett Wilson, these wide receiver matchups look so juicy right now. I think Juju will probably be matched up with Patrick Surtain, but like I said, the Broncos defense is packed it in. The whole Broncos organization is packed it in. The coach is sitting at home on the couch watching the games. So, and then Josh Allen versus Brock Purdy is obviously a huge mismatch. So I do think it's possible. I think there's a lot of room. If Jalen Hurts plays, I think there's less room to get there. But I do kind of think Nick Sirianni is just looking at it like, do we need Jalen Hurts to beat the Saints? Do we risk running him back out there and re-injuring him? I would lean towards no, and I would lean towards Andrew having to lean with Brock Purdy. So, I do think there's a path here. And actually, I'm going to go bold pick here, and I do think Tim is going to come back down 22 points and win this game. We saw him come back against Raleigh, although a lot smaller of a margin, and win there at the end to make it here. And I think we might see this again, making Tim your 2022 Rad Avenger League champion. I would say it's bittersweet, kind of getting towards the end of the season. But at this point, with the way my season's gone and the way that my team has played, I'm kind of just ready to watch some worry-free football. The playoffs this year are going to be exceptional, especially in the AFC. So I know what I can do here. We can revisit the Super Bowl picks. So going through it, John still alive. He had Vikings versus Bills. I don't think the Vikings are going to make the Super Bowl, but technically not dead. So that's nice. Obviously the Bills are probably the second favorite out of the AFC right now behind the Chiefs. If they lock up in the 1 seed, you might even make them the full favorite. Tim also technically not dead. Had Packers versus Chiefs. The Packers need a lot of help to even make it to the playoffs. But they're technically still alive. So that's, nice. Cameron, dead in the water. Saints versus Chiefs. Chiefs obviously very good. Saints not very good. Raleigh. If you want any consolation, to save your season, Vikings versus Chargers, very alive. Both teams in the playoffs. It's the Dark Horse Bowl. The teams no one talking about bowl, the team no one wants to play bowl, would be very interesting. And it would also be very fun to watch and see how each of those teams would try to screw up winning a Super Bowl. Frankly, it would just be exhilarating. And then my pick, one of them looking very, very juicy, and one of them looking very, very dead, actually mathematically dead. 49ers versus Colts. I do think the 49ers go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. At least make it to the NFC Championship game. But, I still think the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl. That defense is so damn good. Now, I have been on record as saying that quarterback play matters. So, when they run into the Eagles or the Cowboys, if they run into the Cowboys might get bounced in the first round. But when they run into the Eagles, the Cowboys, or even the Vikings, that's going to be a little bit tough, but that defense is so damn good. And Brock Purdy is serviceable. It's not like he's a terrible quarterback. Obviously, Colts stink. So, that's it. Shorter video. Like I said, there's really not a lot left to talk about. A lot of the matches have been decided. The 5th place game and the 1st place game are still technically within reach, and it should be. Oh, Kansas just dropped a touchdown in the end zone. Oh, Kansas, we're not gonna get this. We're gonna get to 61, and actually, we're probably gonna get to 68. And if they go for 2, we may get to 69. Nice. Anyway, this has been your final Rad Avenger League recap of 2022. Really excited to get back to next year. Really excited to just start fresh, as I'm sure a lot of us are. Pretty much everybody except for Andrew and Tim. But good luck this weekend, everyone. Let's enjoy just some regular football, just watching as fans. And we'll see y'all next year.